All right, check. So there's a Facebook, well, an Amazon seller that found me on Facebook that you buy items. I think they have up to three of them now. And I'm only telling you this because one of them is a ring light that
Oh,
has like a phone, a phone holder. You might even be able to mount a camera in it, but it's a light that shines forward, but that won't get into the camera.
gotcha.
So it's probably just for this kind of thing, for recording videos and things. Um, but anyway, the items that they sell are about $50. Another one was a C, it's like a 13-way C port splitter. So if you have a phone that has a USB-C
What does
or
that do?
like it has a HDMI output. It
Oh
has
wow.
like, yeah, it's got a bunch of different
A few.
outputs. So
Okay,
you can
gotcha.
split it into USBs, like if you want to hook a keyboard and a mouse up to
Right.
your
Yeah.
phone and a monitor and like an HDMI, you can turn your phone into like a little console on your TV even. So
Yeah, I was like doing some research and I was like, this stuff could get really like intense. Like there's
yeah,
different
man.
things
I
you
mean,
can really get to do.
and phones are
Yeah.
coming out now with like, more RAM than some of the laptops. Like some
Yeah.
of the new phones are 6 and 8 gigabytes of RAM in it. And
Yeah.
I'm
It's
like,
like, why do you even need anything else but your phone?
you
Then
don't
it's
get
also
much
like the
else.
culture of like, are you just always in your phone?
Right. When
Like
our
I've been
phones
working
when our
on that.
phones
Like,
become our most important piece of property, like even more
yeah,
important than our car, like
that's something I need to like work on a lot. Like I've been like consciously telling myself, put the phone away because I have a daughter, but like I could just be like, I get constant work emails, like, ding, ding, ding all day long. So I could just constantly be on my phone if I'm not like aware, like, okay, put it away. It's done. Work is done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but I didn't. I had never actually got to the end of the story. So you buy
Oh,
these things. I just realized, like, I trailed that thought into a conversation, which is always fun. But yeah, you buy these things and you give them a review. I think it's their way of getting rid of overstock or something. But
oh,
you give them a 5-star rating and you comment, and they then give you your money back. So they
oh,
call it
nice.
like a form of beta testing. But I was beta testing some glass containers, like food containers and things like that. So but yeah, there's a ring light that if you might be interested in that, it might help for our video production. This is all brand new, so I'm going to try to
Yeah.
find as many ways as I can to improve quality. um
Yeah.
the microphone, the camera, it'll all hopefully grow over time, but I don't want to invest a bunch of money into it until we're sure it's something we're going
Right. Exactly. Agree.
to be,
Agree.
to benefit from. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like I just want to dive in. Like I want to hear your story. Like I feel like you have a really interesting story. So like how did you find Lambda? What put you on this path? Like
Oh wow.
everything.
Well, how I found Lambda, that is like, that can be a really, really long story, or it can be, you know, I guess no matter what, I have to pretty much tell the whole story. um, it all started in 1976. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that is true, but no, I was always kind of into programming. And when I say that, I mean it, as soon as I knew about computers, I wanted to play with them. The fact that I can just, as soon as I saw Pong, I was just like, wow. I liked TV enough, but when I found that you could hold something in your hand and make something happen on the TV, I was just immediately enthralled. So like then I got a Commodore 64, or VIC 20 was my first computer, and I think when we got the Commodore 64, which was the next one up, that you could probably, I think you could put cartridges in it and there was different games. Like I finally opened the book once and there was some basic programming in there. It like started to teach you how to do basic. And I tried a couple of the early commands and saw that I could make it print out words and things, just by copying what was in the book, and that was all cool and all. But it wasn't really all that thrilling until I found this song that you could program the computer to sing. It wasn't words, but it played the notes, and I wanted to make. I just wanted to see what it did. So I copied all the lines of code just like they were in the book, without knowing a single thing about what I was doing. I think I was about 8 years old, and I went and hit enter or run or whatever it was at the time. I forget a little. My basics a little rusty, but you know, I hit run and it just started playing this song, and I was thrilled enough to go grab my mom and show her what I'd done, and she was beyond thrilled. Like she was like laughing and almost like screaming laughing, and you know, like what? And she called my dad up there, and like, you know, it was like this big ordeal about what I did. And you know, of course my dad was like, oh, he didn't, you know, he didn't do it on his own. She was like, what do you mean he did it? He was like, you just copied it out of the book. She's like, well, that's still good. You know, you could copy it, you know, because I'm 8 years old. And it kept on going over time. We never had computers in the house too much either until I was much older. I think our first PC, well, I guess you consider a Victoria PC, but our first like IBM compatible computer only had what, 3 gigabytes of hard drive space. Like that's how far things have come. You know, there was like the internet was brand new, everything was dial up. So like going into high school, I started programming some in Pascal, and I got into a AP computer science program. It was like an advanced preparation, like supposedly earned you some college credit. I don't know if it was actually transferable for the college I went to. But even college didn't last long. I got a little bit of a freedom out of, you know, break from my home life, and kind of ran with it and enjoyed, you know, enjoyed the freedom enough, and even more so than the learning. I mean, I did really well in my computer classes and the math classes, the classes that interested me, but I just never I never could motivate myself to do really well with the other classes. You know, we had to take history, you had to take English, you had to take all these things, and I did well in English and stuff. I was okay with history, but it didn't interest me enough that I could memorize these facts and regurgitate them, you know, just for a test. That by the time, as soon as I got done with the test, I'd never needed to know the information again. So it's like those sort of things were never my go-to. I could learn something if I could make logical sense of it, and then when I came back to try to do it again, I could figure out how to do it again because I remembered the logic behind it. You know, when it comes to memorizing something, um, it's been like, you know, I could trick my way. I could give myself little logical tricks on how to memorize stuff, you know, and then I might be able to recall those. Um, but yeah, memorization was never been a strong suit, and I think that's one of the things I liked most about programming, even early, was that it's like it's learning the logic behind um, the syntax. You know, it's not really having to memorize the syntax. Syntax is very important, you know, because you can know everything you need to know about logic, but if you type one wrong key, you're going to get errors spit out. We all learn that quickly.
Oh yeah.
Um, you
Or
know,
you forget like a comma and nothing works.
yeah, you forget a comma, you add an extra comma, you throw a parentheses. You know, it only takes one character to completely break an API or completely break the functionality of a program, or just, you know, something, even worse, the internal workings of a function you called from some other program, you know, because then it's hard to even retrace back to where your error was. But yeah, and I, you know, went to University of Delaware, started there. I tried to get in the under computer science major. Got in, I think, yeah, I got in originally as a undeclared major just because I don't think there was room in the major at the time, but they told me I could always change major later on. I got through about a semester, you know, and then was going to have to take a semester off for financial reasons. The long and short of that is, you know, we had everything paid up except the housing bill. We go to Christmas break, and you know, the mail comes that we need to pay the housing bill before I'm allowed to return. And you know, credit cards are all maxed out from my parents at the time. I'm 18 at the time, so my parents were helping me with a lot of their part. So they didn't have the money, and so I was gonna have to take a semester off and come back home. And um, one semester turned to 50, and we'll take a big skip there. You know, do my 25-year sabbatical. You know, we can get back into the details of what all happened in those 25 years at some point. You know, but you know, fast forward, I'm now, you know, no longer living at home. I'd been back home probably 4 or 5 times to my parents' house. But I'd gone through, you know, fits of homelessness and drug addiction, and just the party life that never really knew when to quit, until I finally decided to you know go ahead and look at my future, because I was definitely having an okay time. I thought I was enjoying myself a lot, but then when I started to realize, like, I might only have another 15, 20 years before I need to start figuring out how I'm going to end this whole this whole run. So, like, I decided to stop. I decided to completely get sober, get into recovery. I got into a recovery program. I got a government phone. I'm seriously, I came this journey here through Lambda, and I am in Lambda school now. I found them through simply getting a phone gifted to me because I was doing a little bit better. People wanted me to be able to stay in touch and let them know how I was doing. My mom gave me her old iPhone 8, and I was looking around through it for it now that I could actually put apps on the phone, because the government phone I had was like garbage. They give people phones, but it's like they don't give you functional phones. They give you phones that, like, you can make a phone call and you might receive a phone call on. But yeah, the apps. Then I was like, okay, I can actually do things. I can play games. I can get real apps that work, like maps. I can find my way around. And I was in the app store, and it suggested an app called Grasshopper. I'm like, what is this? Is this a game? It's a game. Okay, let me go look at it. And I clicked on it, and it was a game that was about programming. Like, it was a game that taught you, and I think it's Jask. I don't remember the programming language, honestly, but it was similar enough to what I'd learned before with Pascal, and in CISC and C++ is what I started learning in University of Delaware. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is starting to remind me. It's reminding me of the not necessarily the syntax, but the logic of it. Like, it would give you wouldn't have to type it all out. Like, it would give you these little code blocks, and you'd have to put them in order to make whatever the problem was solved. So I played that a little bit for a little while, and that got the algorithms spinning. And you know how we all know about those algorithms now. And if you don't, then everything you do online or on your phone, it gets, churned in some giant super brain computer, and then that thing decides how to advertise to you from then on.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
scary sometimes too, some of the things that you're like,
little,
I was just talking about this,
it's a
like
little,
randomly, didn't search anything. And then I see an
yeah.
advertisement for it. I'm like, what? Are you listening to me?
Yeah, I watched a video about that. I mean, we can veer off on that for just a quick second, but I watched a video about that this guy was, he went into, opened a browser. He showed a sign, didn't say the words yet, but he showed a sign about what he was going to talk about. He went to a web page, and you saw the sidebar ads and what they were. And then he started talking about dog toys. And he started talking about how he wanted to get his dog a toy, and specifically a brand of dog toys, and the color. He definitely likes red, this brand dog toys. I forget the exact thing, but you can look it up with those Google keywords, I'm sure. And he goes back and reloads the site, and don't you know, there's red dog toys from that company,
Right?
without him having any sort of, no typing involved. So it goes to show that, like, there are things, there are softwares that are monitoring us and then trying to market to our likes. I recently saw another one with a guy walks around his house, and he shows in real time what his camera is seeing, and boxes around the item and labels of what they are, like chair, remote control, lamp, TV. And so any app you give camera permission to on your phone is legitimately is feasibly able to be doing that
Right.
with or without your knowledge. So
Crazy.
um, I'm not scared of it, to tell you the truth. I don't really think it's going to go full Big Brother on us, you know.
Yeah.
But
I feel like my thing about it is like, what can we really do about it? Like it's like we're already there. We're already like we're
yeah,
on the Facebook, we're on the Instagram, like we're already out there. There's like little we can do at this point to reverse any of these things. So
it's unless you're going to wear ski mask and goggles everywhere you
right.
go, never
Don't
touch
use
anything,
smartphones.
don't have a single electronic device on you that's
Yeah.
got Bluetooth or anything. So it means if you want to live as part of the technological age, you are going to then be subject to the technology. It's like
Right.
people don't want to see commercials when they watch TV shows, but they put up with it, so that
Right.
they can watch the TV shows. That was when people are probably watching this by now and be like, what's this TV thing he's talking about?
Yeah.
you know.
My daughter, we were watching regular TV and she was like, "What are these?" I'm like, "Those are advertisements." And her mind was blown. She had no clue what
Like, why is
advertisements
the show
were.
starts why does the show keep stopping and they keep showing us this stuff?
She's like, "I don't like this. I want to go back to the show."
Yeah, I gave up on
Wow.
ads so long ago. I'm a huge fan of ad blocker props on Google Chrome. It keeps ads even out of YouTube videos, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know why I despise ads so much. But this was the one ad. So you know how I veer right back on track. This was
Nice.
the one ad that I finally really appreciated their targeting for me. Because it said something like, do you want to learn how to program and take, control of your career and blah, blah, blah for $0. And, I clicked through, I watched this quick little video and I was like, what? And I was like, okay, this is interesting. I was like, all right, I got to see what this is about. Cause they said for absolutely free, they will teach me how to program, how to get basically myself back onto the track where I was in college before everything, kind of before I took my break,
Your
my
extended
semester off at
sabbatical.
turned to 50. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it was a way that I could immediately rejoin, my original life course without having to look at it like I gotta do all these papers, I gotta do, all these midterms, these exams, these tests, prove to people that I'm trainable in every different way when all I really want to do is program. And Lambda was set up, they have the ISA, which is income share agreement. They're set up in a way that I was really impressed with, that you pay nothing until you get your job making at least $50,000 a year, and then you pay 17% for 24 months. And people say 2 years, but it's like if you stop working for 6 months, you stop paying for 6 months. So I was like super impressed with that. Like that they're not like trying to gouge people for student loan debt or keep you in debt forever. You can make your money they'll train you up to the point. And that they were so that they're so um sure of their product, sure of themselves and what they would produce, that um, that they're willing to take the chance on you. They basically are gambling on the students, enough of them actually being successful that they can keep their business running. So that's my story, kind of. I skipped a good amount there. We can get into the finer details of my adventures on of my my 30 days and 30 nights in the desert. Uh, but but yeah, let's shift the focus onto you. I've been doing a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
talking, so.
well, I must say that was definitely the fact that they felt so confident in their product that they were like, "We'll train you. You don't pay us, and you don't pay us until you get hired." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Wow! Like you guys must feel really good about like what you're delivering and how you're supporting the people you're teaching for them to be able to leave your program and be successful." So I was like, "That seems," because I checked out some other programs and I just didn't feel the sense of community, I guess, the way that Lambda kind of, because I think Lambda kind of markets a community aspect that I really liked. Because I am brand new to programming. Like, I've never done any kind of programming before. Like, I wasn't, when I was like a young, I was like a nerd. I like read books, like I wasn't the one playing video games or anything like that. I was very book person. Like in college, I majored in philosophy, which was all about like reading and writing like papers about bullshit. So
Right.
yeah, I was never on the like programming track or like the super science track or math track.
Hmm.
Um and after that left I graduated philosophy degree and I went and I did an education degree. So I'm a trained teacher and I've been teaching for the past 10 years. And um, teaching is a rewarding career, but it's also very stressful. Sometimes you just feel burnt out. Because I think people who teach, you don't teach for money because there's not a lot of money in teaching, but
Right.
you teach because you want to help students. You want students to succeed and be successful in life. Um, but then there's so much bureaucracy. There's so much other things. It's not like you just go in the classroom and you're teaching your kids. Is like you have to do all these paperwork, and you have to do the assessments, and you have to cross all your T's and dot all your I's for the administration. It's like so much of
And
your
deal with
time
parents.
and do a parent. There's a big customer service aspect
Right.
to teaching. You can't just be like, listen, your kid needs to do this. It's like, well, he's really like you have to really like finesse things with parents. Um, and just be careful about like how you deliver you know, news to parents, at least not great
Sure.
news. So there's a lot of aspects of teaching that is not just teaching,
Sure.
and I was feeling a little burnt out. And then this whole COVID situation happened. And so like we were working remotely from home, and it kind of gave me some time to be like reflective and like really think about like what's my next step, like how do I want to see my life progress.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to be tied down to this like 9 to 5 situation where I feel like my life is very controlled. I wanted to have like more autonomy of my life. I want to do something where I could like, if I want to work remotely or if I want to travel somewhere, work from there. Like I just wanted that freedom of being in control of what I do
Sure.
and how I do it. And yes, I was just like in that space, and I was like having conversation with friends, and a friend of mine suggested Lambda. He was like, you should check it out. Like you are like, I'm not like techie, but like computer stuff, I know my way around and stuff like that. And he's like, you might find it interesting. And so I checked out a few of them. I said, and Lambda kind of like stood out for me because I said it was a community part. And that's how I started on my journey. And I remember when I was talking to like the I guess like the screener or whatever, the guy who gets you in. Um, and I was just like, I don't know anything about programming. Like, why am I like, should this something I should be doing?
Mhm.
And he was like, we'll support you. He gave me all these resources to like check into before I start, school.
Oh,
So I
cool.
felt like, wow, that was really like supportive. He could have been like, oh, well, maybe it's not for you. Or he could have been like discouraging but he really tried to support me and give me tools to succeed. And even though it was something that was fully remote, not traditional college that I've been used to, um, I wanted to go on this journey. Hasn't been the easiest. It's definitely like a learning curve for me. One, not knowing programming. Two, adapting to this concept of being completely like, you know, virtual, like learning on a virtual platform. Like
Right. And let's
there's
talk about
no
the
like, hey,
community.
professor,
Right.
please
Right.
help
Right.
me. So
But yeah, that's something I didn't touch on. Like, can you tell about a little about the community part of it? Because a lot of people probably have no idea what Lambda even is.
yeah, I mean, that's how like you and I even started interacting, right? Like, so this idea of Slack, which I've never heard of before in my life until I started Lambda, but this whole Slack channel where like, all everybody in the class can communicate with each other. We can make separate groups or little private groups. You can do a private chats, but just having that resource of like, like see, like for example, like I gravitate towards you, I'm like, oh, he knows what he's doing. Let me like message him, like, hey, can you help me out here? So just having that like sense of like community and that everybody wants everybody to succeed and do well, and everybody's willing to help each other, um, was really great, and this is what I really like about the Lambda school. Yeah.
Um,
Like, how about you? Like, I feel like you've really taken like like a leadership role as far as like, helping others, like forming groups, like what made you gravitate towards that situation?
um, we had like a side group chat once, and I don't remember how it started. I really don't. And I know that
I actually think you sent out a Zoom link and you were like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna try to run through this if anyone wants to join." And I think I want to say
Yeah, I
Daniel.
guess
I
that
think
might
he
be it.
joined,
Yeah,
and
it
I
could have
came
it
in.
could have
I'm like,
been
I'm
like,
just
all right, like
lurking.
anyone want to join the study group or like, go to the
Yeah,
study guide with us because to get ready for this test. It was when things started getting a little more challenging.
yeah.
And everyone that joined, then they were like, we'd start just kept we, we'd send group messages to each other. And I was like, this is a kind of a cool idea. And we started using that as our spill off so we weren't it's kind of like passing notes in class,
Right.
so we're not like sitting in the main Slack channel. Um, and if you heard me typing just now, my apologies. I had to look up the acronym, but I didn't know this when I first started. But Slack is actually an acronym. It stands for Searchable Log of All Communication and Knowledge.
Oh wow, I didn't know that either.
So yeah, it's I guess of isn't part of it, but all communication and knowledge, and I like or and. But yeah. So it's like the Facebook of professional communities, where you don't post, you can post links and pictures, but most of the time people just put up comments and it all sits in one big grouped um, room,
Yeah.
or page you could call it. But we made our own little group chat that turned into a side channel um, for a while because we found out we could like when someone was being annoying or when the when the instructor was doing something that irked us all, but none of us wanted to say anything and be unprofessional in the main Slack channel. We could just have our own little area to goof off a little bit. So, but that turned into a kind of camaraderie thing, and then the people that were there were able to support each other more. We were able to share things as far as information that we found or just cool things that we found. Some people just like to be able to post up videos, share music, whatever it was, share music that they use when they're doing their homework. So whatever it is, it's like it's a place where you're able to get to join groups too. Like I made a Baltimore group and that didn't take off, and then I realized that there's a uh, DMV group. That's a Delaware, Maryland, Virginia. It includes DC, obviously, because that's in between Maryland and Virginia. But that DMV group, I guess, was the reason why, like, Baltimore is a little too precise for a group because I think there's probably only two people in Lambda that I'm aware of, maybe three now, that are actually in the Baltimore area. And that doesn't mean that there haven't been. I just only, know the people that have either come through that group or that were in our cohort, our group cohort. And if you are thinking about Lambda, if you're interested, hear what we're saying and thinking about it, they start one up. They start a new cohort every month for full time, and maybe every 2 or 3 months for part time. So, I would recommend it. It's obviously not for everyone, but if you don't make it through, the best thing about it is if you don't make it through and you never get a job in tech, you never pay anything at all for it. So it's like you really don't have anything to lose. You're going to end up coming out with some new knowledge anyway. And you only have to pay if you actually get a job in that area. Also, if you just heard that, like I said, I live in Baltimore, so we're gonna get some distractions. I'm surprised there's been no sirens or anything going on,
Right.
but you're gonna hear things from time to time coming through my microphone. So I'll try
I
to
think
keep it.
the good thing about Lambda is that you do the pre-course. So I think it gives you an idea of like, okay, is this
Very
something
good
I
point.
really want to pursue?
Sure.
I think the pre-course, because the pre-course can be pretty vigorous.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it gives you a good indication of like, okay, do I want to pursue this? And am I going to dedicate the time? Because I
Right.
think if you don't allot the time and have time management and dedicate your time accordingly, you won't be successful.
Yeah. I
'Cause
can.
even in the part-time program, like you have either like those 3 hours, you're like superly intensely focused. You have to give yourself extra time at some point,
Right.
to be successful. So
Yeah.
I think the
Definitely true.
pre-course definitely gives you um a barometer for you to decide, okay, this is what I want to do.
I have a little bit of a funny story about my pre-course there too, since we're talking about our beginnings at Lambda. And I plan to title this one, for whatever platforms it makes it onto. I'm going to call this the Hello World broadcast because, and if you've ever done any programming in any boot camps or opened a programming book, you'll know the first thing they ever do, just like this is our first broadcast, the first thing you do is learn to program Hello World. Get your computer to output Hello World. So this is kind of our first attempt, and I invite you all that have found this recording, video, audio, whatever else other forms you might find us in. Um, Hopefully, we're not in hologram yet, but by the time you find us,
One
but
day.
we
Maybe
encourage you
you
to
will
come.
program that.
Yeah, come grow with us. This whole thing is definitely going to it's going to grow over time. We're going to get better tech. We're going to get better at this whole thing. Hopefully, eventually we'll have studio sound. You won't have to hear, cars bumping music on the way.
It's authentic.
Yeah, but this is real life. She's not actually sitting on a cliff right now. That background is virtual. And I'm not hallucinating right now. That's also a virtual background.
That's what he said.
I'm not trying to show you all my bedroom. I'll give you a quick glimpse, just because I'm not scared. So wait, where is it? Maybe not. Maybe I lied. Oh, there it is. So there we go. See, I'm
Nice
just
to
at
meet
home.
you.
I'm just in the room.
Beds are all made. Looks nice and neat.
I got my what's it called? My oh man. See now, I don't play the game. Minecraft. My Minecraft plushies are chilling on the bed there.
What inspired the Minecraft plushies?
To tell you the truth, I found them and they needed a good home. So
There you go.
I took them in and I gave them a good washing, and I didn't know what they were, but I knew that they were 8-bit and I was cool. I was like, these are cool. The first stuffed animal I've ever seen that has to do with computers. So I wanted one or two, I wanted them both, So I've always kind of been interested in Minecraft. It's a cool game because it's a game where you build the game yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the kind of games I like. Like I like Sim World, things like that, because you build everything up and then you get to watch how it works, how what your creation does. And that's a lot to say about programming, and why that's such an interest to me. Because like slowly over time, not only are we building our knowledge on how to do things, but we're building functionality. We're building ways and new ways to solve real world problems, and then we get to release it into the wild and see how well it performs. So we made a couple apps here and there. We still have some more projects to do before this is all over with. But I really so far have enjoyed. I think some of the most enjoyable ones are the ones that aren't just an article, which I'll talk about that a little bit too in a little while. I pulled off a couple articles that I was proud of, but the ones that are an article, you can go back and look at it again, and it's still going to be the exact same way you left it. It's like it's never going to change. Nobody else can experience it in any different kind of way. But when we make something like a model, like a machine learning algorithm or model that you can then play with, that you can have other people try out, and they can put their own information in or put their own inputs, whatever those might be, whether they're users that they want to search on Twitter for, like, for example, of another app we did, and it's going to give them different results, and that it's a real living thing at that point. And it's kind of you can look back, get kicked back, and eventually say, okay, I made that, and that's functional. So now I have a little bit more of a motivation to try to make something bigger and better that's also functional, that can and then eventually get to the point where I'm part of larger projects that are actually changing the way that we live our lives. I'm getting really nerdy with it lately, as far as like I'm geeking it up full hard, like all full blown geek mode lately. I watched the how Google works video the other day. and I was just blown away. It was an hour-long video, and the whole time I was just like focused in. And then I flipped it on my phone thinking I'd watch a couple minutes and probably move on like everything
Yeah.
else, but I watched my phone for a straight hour because the 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 stuff that they've incorporated um, with BERT and and I forget the acronym for BERT. I can look that up real quick too, but it's basically the thing that makes Google searches understand what you're asking by the context of what you're asking. You know,
Gotcha.
it doesn't just block out the words that are so common that are called stop words. I know that now. But the words that are so common in language that they don't really have a lot of influence generally. You know, but if you put in plane ticket from USA to Brazil, from and to are very important words there.
Right.
You know, whereas a lot of times from and to aren't going to change the context of what the search means. So like it took Google from keyword searching to actually context searching. And natural language processing is another thing we're learning about already. You know, we go at Lambda and within 1 year's time in part-time or 6 months time in full-time, you go through it all. You get to learn it all. You get to learn about machine learning in the most basic ways, you know, like predicting the price of an apartment in a certain area of New York, depending on other data that, you know, from apartments in that area and what the price ranges generally are, depending on their level of rooms and, you know, how many rooms they have, things like that. So you go to just from mathematical equations like that to learning how to turn language into math for
Right.
your computer, you know, natural language. And, you know, people ask questions of Google. They aren't always very good at keyword searching, you know. So if you don't know how to search using just keywords to get you to where you need to be, yeah, and now you're able to find info about something, just ask. That's hilarious.
That's something like we've also had to
Tell me
like
about
deal with, right?
butterfly.
Because like if we're
She,
looking,
she, my phone heard
oh,
me say Google enough times, and she's like, to find information about something, just ask. I was like, yes, yes, I know,
yeah,
Google. I know. That's how you work now. You're awesome because you can ask in natural language, and it takes pairs of words. You know,
right.
they're called bigrams. Like I'm
Yeah,
amazed
I
that I
feel like
know
that's
these
such
terminology. You
Google
know,
really mastered that because I feel like even for me, like when we were like doing our projects and like like we had to Google something like in
sure.
very like specific terms,
Yeah.
like I would like struggle like, okay, how do I word this so they know exactly what I'm asking about,
Right.
like
Right.
um so I feel like Google has mastered this idea of like just regular language. If you just type it in how you generally speak and you can find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a huge advancement, you
Yeah.
know, just to be able to ask a computer something in English, you know,
Yeah.
because
Pretty much, right?
because yeah, because programming languages are very strict. You know,
Yeah.
you pretty much have to. There might be 4 different ways to do something, but you got to do it one of those 4 ways correctly in order for it to
Right.
happen.
Yeah.
You know, so like,
I'm kind of
um,
excited that you're in like this geek out phase. That's pretty
yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, just I was really excited that like the stuff that they're doing at Google that they're like talking about doing is the stuff that we're learning about. You know, that just made me feel like, wow, this is, you know, this is actually real world. You know, this is stuff that they're going to need in the real world, and I don't expect that I'm going to immediately get a job for Google. Um, Not that at Google, if you hear me, don't, that does not that doesn't mean I don't want you, you know. But I am going for Tesla first, but we'll see how things go. But it also means, you know, no matter what I get involved with, there are going to be different advancements that, you know, that company websites that, you know, that just people, you know, you're going to want to be able to tell your refrigerator or your oven in, you know, 10 years exactly what you want to have done. If you say bake this for 40 minutes on 350, or if you say set to 350 degrees and cook for, you know, it should probably be able to understand what you mean either way, and not just, and then, you know, and you say at 350, to know that to turn it on at 3:50 p.m. Like it should probably have a little bit of intuition that which way you order your words, or else you're gonna have a burnt whatever
Yeah.
it is when you get
Yeah.
home. you know and all of our devices are getting smarter, so it's like there's plenty of applications. I hear there's more jobs in the US for data science than there are applicants.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's why I think boot camps like Lambda, like I mean, I guess we can only name Lambda because that's the one I endorse Lambda because they will endorse me. There are a few though. There's quite a few, and there's a few that
Right.
do the ISA now too. Some of them you pay up front,
Right.
which is fine. You might even pay less if you pay up front, but
Right.
I don't have $30,000, so and if I was waiting until I had $30,000, I probably wouldn't need Lambda, so like I'm
And also, I mean, just because I went through the college experience and I have college debt,
yeah,
like I like Lemon because I could test it out first, because
sure,
you could quit in the first, like, what, I think 2 months if you're part-time, 1 month if you're full-time. Um, so having that freedom of like, okay, you know what, I don't want to commit to this, I don't owe you anything, is really
yeah,
nice, compared to like you go to college and you're like, I'm immediately in debt, you know?
right,
Whether or not I pursue this degree to the fullest or I complete this degree or not, I still owe money. So
right, right. Yeah,
I
the
definitely
college doesn't care
appreciate that
whether you
part.
make money or not. That debt's never going away. And I can
That's
speak on that. That one semester I took back in 1994, I still owe them money from
yeah,
on my yeah. So that was part of it too. Like I didn't know how I was going to get through, getting back into school, just getting the finances for it, figuring out the time to do it while you also have to try to live life and pay bills.
right.
So Lambda's been great for that. I'm in school now. I'm on the East Coast, so I'm on school from 9 to midnight. They're on Pacific time, so that's only
Yeah.
6 to 9 p.m. for them. So that probably seems very reasonable for those folk. But getting out of class at midnight and I'm all geared up because my brain's on full,
Right. You're in full mode,
throttle.
like you're up for all those 2 hours and you
Right, you
wake
got to
up in the
wind down
morning.
for a
Like,
couple hours after that. So and then going about waking up early again, 9 a.m. or earlier, 7 or something. It can be a bit. And I've seen some people that, I'm not gonna completely sugarcoat this. We started off. There's probably about 50% of the people in our cohort from when
right.
we started. Not everyone's gonna love this, or not everyone's going to get through the first try. That's another great thing. I mean, this is not a Lambda advertisement. This might start sounding like it is, but another great thing. I really, and I'm just speaking from the heart, so I don't feel like I need to explain that too much. But another great thing about them is if you don't like, there, it's not pass fail. It's like pass or didn't pass yet.
Right.
Like they definitely allow you they want everybody to get through, obviously, because that's how they make their money. But yeah, if you don't pass unit, which in part-time they're 2 months long,
Right.
you just you finish it out still, so you get to see what all's in it, and then you repeat that unit. You go back to it and you work through it all again. You get another shot at it. So
Because that's realistic, like people, we have lives, things come up, emergencies arise, things happen, especially now in the situation we're in. We're in a pandemic. There's so many things happening. People losing their jobs. People have to relocate. So having that flexibility is amazing. It's
yeah,
really helpful because you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I failed this. You're like, okay, I need this break. I'm gonna pick back up in a few months. So it's
yeah, it
nice.
takes the
Doing
pressure
it.
off a little too.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
when I'm going into a test I'm not real sure about, I'm like, I just gotta go for it, because even if I don't pass, I'll be able to take it again. So you'll
right,
have you and you don't have to necessarily take the full 2 months over unless you decide to what they call flex. So
right.
you can still resubmit a failed test or assignment within a certain amount of time and not have to repeat the whole unit. So
Yeah.
I like the setup of the program completely. Props to Lambda for this.
Yeah,
We're
I
coming
think.
up on that 1 hour mark, and my
Oh, okay.
computer's starting to do a little grumbling and groaning. So
Gotcha.
before
Okay.
my fan gets too loud for me, I'm gonna
Sounds good.
gonna
I also,
try to
the
keep
one
it
thing I would
shorter.
say, just to wrap things up in
Sure.
regards to Lambda, is you just have to have the heart. I think if you have the heart, you'll be fine. You'll be successful. I think that's what it takes, to be honest.
No, I agree
That's my
100%.
Lambo endorsement.
If you're willing to try and you're willing
Right.
to not give up even when you fail, you're going to succeed at Lambda.
Gotcha.
And that's what it comes down to. It's
Yeah.
like, that's what getting through that pre-course will teach you. Because for me, there was parts of it I just knew I wasn't going to get, I wasn't going to pass on, but I still turned it in, and I still turned it in on time. And I still was probably 56th person out of a class of 55. So I didn't get in, but, and I don't mean by score wise, I just mean by, like first come, first serve. So I had to wait a couple months before I got in. But that gave me a little chance to do a little Udemy boot camp and get my basic Python skills up. So
there's like a lot of Code Academy is good too.
Yeah, those are good too. I mean, those are good. It's good to get those little certs from the self-training academies, but it doesn't compare to having a group of people working with on the same thing as you, having people to reflect off of, to ask questions of, So yeah, I'm impressed. But thank you all for listening. If you made it this far in the podcast, I'm going to do the little self-promotion thing here. I don't know what platforms this will make it onto, but like, share, subscribe, support, retweet, whatever it is. However you found us, help others that might enjoy, listening to this or might benefit from it to find us too. And I hope to
please join us.
Chat with you again in the near future. Got any parting words, Sidoney?
I guess my parting words is, I think the fact that you and I are doing this together, and we're such from, different places. Like, you have a little computer background, I have none, and here we are on this journey together. I think just kind of exemplifies how, if you want something and you're interested in it, you should just go for it.
Right on. All right, I'm just going to end with saying, since we never did, I'm Timothy Eakin, and this is Sidoney Daley, and this has been Spill the Data. All right, and spillthedata@gmail.com is for our contact for now. I will probably open a PayPal with that eventually, but right now we're not asking for any donations except for your time. So we appreciate your time, and thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.